Hey guys, this is Derek. I wanted to do my first gun review today because mostly there are no other gun reviews about this particular model. So there are a handful of Rock River Arms LAR-8 reviews, but this particular model, the LAR-8 Standard Operator, has not been reviewed specifically at all. And I know how it is when you're looking to get a gun, you really want all the information about that specific model that you can. And so I wanted to give you guys this information to help you out. So how is it different than other models of the LAR-8 lineup? It's got a 20-inch barrel, a hunter compensator. I don't know that the compensators are really that much different, but definitely got that 20-inch barrel, which is unique to this model, and this handguard is unique. So it is a full pick rail on top and a quad rail on the front here, with about a 3-inch quads on the left and right sides and on the bottom. I've attached just a really cheap bipod to the bottom, doesn't really swivel at all, and I also have a Bushnell banner scope with a riser here. The banner scope is super cheap, but yeah, the gun itself is really nice. I really like this model. I wanted to get this particular model because it has the 20-inch barrel versus a lot of the, I think the X1 is like a 18-inch barrel, and it has a fluted barrel. But I wanted that extra 2 inches for just, I think it's only another 60 feet per second or so. Really doesn't add too much to velocity. But I wanted this primarily for hunting, believe it or not, because it is a heavy weapon. But primarily for hunting, but also to kind of fulfill multiple different roles. So I've had this for 2 years. I've had about 450 to 500 rounds in it. And the reason I got it, because I had an FNAR before this, which is a 308 semi-automatic rifle. I ended up getting this because I was having reliability issues with the FN. I don't think that's standard with the FN, but I did buy it used, and I was having some issues with that model that I wasn't too impressed with. The other thing was I shoot in the desert a lot, and there was a lot of, in that FN action, it was very open, and a lot of dirt, a lot of dust was getting in there. And I always thought, from reviews and from my limited personal experience, that the AR-15 platform, which, you know, AR-10, basically the same thing, just in 308 Winchester instead of 223 5.56. The AR-10 platform and the AR-15 platform are very well designed to resist environmental conditions, and so that's another reason I wanted it. The other reason is I got the FN because it had a minute of angle guarantee. I wasn't able to get a minute of angle with the FN. Again, it was used. I don't know how well used, but I like, it's kind of like Tommy Boy. I like that guarantee on the box calling out to me. And so I wanted something with a minute of angle guarantee because I knew I wanted a semi-auto 308, but I wanted something that was able to deliver very good accuracy. And this thing absolutely delivers. I'm going to talk about it here in a second, but it absolutely delivers on that. So I can hunt with this even at longer distances and feel very confident in its abilities. So I'm very pleased with this gun, but that's why I got it. Just those few reasons. Also, the AR-15 ergonomics, I feel, are a little bit better than the FN. So how's the reliability on this? Again, I said 450 to 500 rounds, not a single failure. However, there is one exception. Rock River Arms makes proprietary magazines, which I've heard are based on the inch pattern FAL mags. So I think I've also heard some things like they can accept both metric and inch pattern. Here's my experience with it. They only guarantee the Rock River Arms magazines to work in these rifles, and that was kind of my experience because I got this thermold magazines, which is FAL mag, and the difference is on the back here that I can see anyways. The difference is obvious on the back. Right up here, this thermold one, which I've kind of dremeled a little bit here to make it more flat, but it's got a ramp at the top. This is just flat. This is just a cylindrical block. This is a ramp. I also tried to cut some of this down. In any case, what ended up happening was I put this in, and every time I fired, it would eject the magazine. So it didn't work at all as a magazine, so I don't use that anymore. But these work perfectly. I haven't had a problem with any of the Rock River Arms magazines I've had. And like I said, not a single failure to feed, failure to eject, any kind of failures whatsoever with that 450 to 500 rounds. And I've had it in many different conditions. The magazines are proprietary. I think Rock River Arms got started kind of in that Clinton era ban where they were thinking, well, if there's going to be blanket bans on a lot of different things, maybe we can go in a different direction. So if there's a blanket ban, ours won't fall under that blanket ban. That's just what I've heard. So they designed their rifle a little bit more uniquely, including to take those FAL magazines instead of, say, like a Magpul. I think they're the DPMS pattern, because the AR-10s, I should mention, are not. They're not standardized like the AR-15, where you can get this brand of lower with this brand upper, etc., and put it all together and make your own build. You have to be a lot more careful with the AR-10s because DPMS makes their own pattern, Armalite makes their own pattern, and Rock River Arms have their own pattern. You might see some interchangeability, but for the most part, you just want to stick with one brand with all your parts if you're making an AR-10 build. So what's the build quality like on this? I'm not sure what the finish is. It looks like an anodized finish, and it's worked excellent. The only problems I've had is I had this single point sling, which has got this hard steel attachment point here, and I left it on. The LAR-8 is very ambidextrous. It's got points to attach a sling on either side. It also has, of course you can switch the charging handle around. The magazine release is on both sides, as well as this is another unique feature. This is actually the bolt release. You push it down to release the bolt. I'll show you that here in a second. But it's on both sides as well. Very ambidextrous. But going back to the coating issue, I had this attached here, and I left it in the case, and it was flopping around, and it kind of got some scratches there, which I'm not happy with, because I really like to take care of my guns, especially this one. So yeah, other than that, the finish has been really nice. The only other wear I've seen is on the charging handle here. Oh, it's got quite a stout spring in there, but I don't know if you can see, there's some wear right there on the charging handle. So this is a 12.5 pound gun, so I'm struggling to hold it one-handed there. Yeah, so you can see right here, there's a little bit of wear there. You're going to see that on just about every charging handle in an AR-15 or AR-10. Again, this is the bolt release, so your trigger finger is going to be right here, and you can access the magazine release and also release the bolt just like that. And it's not super hard to push it down. It's also not too easy, so you have to worry about accidentally activating it. It does a pretty good job. Now, let me just make sure it's not loaded. Okay. So, the coating, very well, very weather sealed. I've had this in really poor conditions. I took this hunting last year in kind of a sleety rain that turned into snow. I've also had it in freezing conditions, and and in the desert where it's very dusty, a lot of dust and grime that can fly around, and the outside got quite dusty, but the inside stayed really nice and clean. The barrel is free-floated. So if you're not familiar, you may have heard free-floated barrels and accuracy. You want that for accuracy. The deal with that is when you fire a gun, you've got a blast wave of pressure which creates waves that go throughout the barrel. And so they talked about the harmonics of a barrel and how that pressure wave can affect the harmonics of it. And if I'm butchering this at all, for the people who are more expert about this, feel free to comment about it below. But if you have different things attached to a barrel and it's not free floated, then it can affect your accuracy because it's affecting the harmonics of the barrel. So up here we have the gas block, which does have these sling swivels on either side and on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that right there. And the gas block itself has a pick rail on it, a very small one, and also this pop-up sight, pop-up iron sight, which I'm not going to use at all. I kind of wish that I didn't have it on there because it just adds a little bit more weight. Not enough to notice, but it does add to the overall weight, which the box weight on this I think is 10.2 ounces. Once I added this riser and a scope and the front bipod and you put in a full magazine there, you're going to add another couple pounds. So we're talking over 12 pounds here. But it's yeah, it's very well made. Let's see. Oh, the barrel, 20 inches. Talked about gas block here. So the barrel is a chrome molybdenum. So back, I'm not sure when the military decided they needed to start chrome lining their barrels because they had too many people shooting full auto and burning out barrels. And so to extend the life of the barrels, they started lining them with chromium. Some people, there is some debate as to how that affects accuracy because it's usually chrome lined after the rifling is done. And so if you do your rifling and then you line it with chrome, then it can accentuate any little bumps or imperfections in that rifling. And so some people say, oh, chrome lined barrels, it affects accuracy. I'm not an expert enough in that field to say whether or not it does. I just know that this thing is a chrome moly barrel. And that's the chrome moly thing versus just chrome lined. I'm not sure what the difference is. It almost sounds like the steel itself is maybe impregnated with it. I'm not sure. You're going to have to ask Rock River Arms about that. I just know that it is hardened versus standard barrel. It's hardened to extend the life of the barrel. So props to that, I guess. So we talked about the handguard. So I should mention that, and I think maybe I did before, that you can't interchange a lot of parts between the AR-10 style patterns because DPMS, Armalite, and Rock River Arms all make their own. I think I already talked about that. However, Rock River Arms does sell different uppers for this LAR-8 lower. So they have one also in 6.5 Creedmoor, 243 Winchester, and several different configurations of the 308 Winchester if you wanted to switch it up. But certainly don't put a DPMS upper on here or an Armalite one. Okay, talked about the foul mags, talked about the bolt release, and the buttstock is also one of their designs. Surprise, surprise, a lot of proprietary things. But it's adjustable, it's very easy to adjust, and it locks really well. I haven't tried to beat this thing on the ground or anything. I usually don't do that with an expensive rifle. But it seems sturdy. It doesn't wiggle around a lot, much at all, really. I've never really had a problem with it at all. But the cool thing about this is it has a little button and you can get inside the buttstock. And it's got a little compartment in there you can put things in. And even this, which has gaskets to keep this watertight. I can get that out. I need both hands for this. Okay. So in there you can put some AA batteries. I think I've done that before. You can actually fit 3 AA batteries in each side, so 6 altogether, and that has rubber gaskets on it and seals up nice. And just know that if you collapse your stock, you're going to lose that space up in there. So you have to keep it extended if you want to store things in it. So between the compensator and that buttstock, this is so much more a pleasure to shoot than the FN. And I hate to be picking on that FN. It's just the only other 308 auto loader that I have experience to draw from. Again, it was used. But as far as the operation of the gun, that was a lighter gun, probably by about 4 pounds, I think. And, well, maybe about 3 to 3.5 pounds lighter. And it had no compensator on it. And so you really felt that recoil. I have kind of sissy shoulders. I don't even really like shooting shotguns that much, 12 gauge shotguns anyways. And I felt like I needed a little bit of padding shooting that FN, but this I could shoot half a day and not have a problem with it whatsoever. I had my sister shooting this and they didn't complain about the recoil at all either. And I guess while I'm talking about my experience with my sisters, they couldn't even pull the charging handle back. So I guess you could look at that as like a safety feature. I certainly wouldn't advocate saying that, you know, just leave it around with kids being able to have access to this and they won't be able to pull the charging handle back, so don't worry about it. But they couldn't even pull it back, and I even showed them the proper technique, let them have the best attack at it, and they just could not pull the charging handle back. That is not, I don't think that's unique to this weapon. I think all AR-10s are going to have a much more stout recoil spring. So if you're an experienced shooter, guy or girl, as long as you have enough muscle to move this thing around, you're going to have enough muscle to pull that charging handle back. So I wouldn't worry about it. The trigger is excellent. I have never had a trigger like this before. I've never had an aftermarket trigger, so keep that in mind. But I'm used to standard GI triggers and AR-15s, and this is light years ahead of it. Amazing. I know Rock River Arms makes an aftermarket drop-in trigger for AR-15s. That's a 2-stage trigger. I have full confidence that it's just as good as this trigger because they just make it super nice. I'll demonstrate it for you. He's still unloaded here. That's good. Always good to check before messing around with the trigger. So here, the take-up is super light. Basically nothing, and then it leaves you at that second stage, and the second stage is still maybe, I think, 4 pounds or so. And a really nice clean break on it. I've taken this out to 1,000 yards. I had never shot a rifle over 100 yards about 3 months prior to shooting at 1,000 yards. And so I started shooting this thing, and I think the trigger really helped at shooting at distance. But I shot it at 100 yards to zero it in that first day, and I'm going to be starting to talk about accuracy here because that trigger really helps with the accuracy. But I took it out the first day at 98 yards. I'll show you the pictures from that day. Very first shots with this weapon, and I was getting under minute of angle groups. And ever since then, I've done it again at 100 yards, and it's still maintained under 1-inch groups. I've been super happy with the accuracy, and that little guarantee they had on the box, the minute of angle guarantee, it's real, and it didn't let me down. Very happy with this gun. Let's see, I was talking about the accuracy. Yes, so I took it out at 98 yards, and then I took it to 300, shot at plates really easily, moved it to 600. I started getting a feel for how much I needed to compensate for the drop in my reticle, and then I took it to 708 the next time at a different location, and then I took a couple days, and the first day just lazed a path to 1,000 yards, wanted to make it really accurate right at 1,000, and took it out there, shot a couple times before the sun went down, and then the next day hit an 8.5-inch cast iron plate at 1,000 yards with this weapon, and I was ecstatic. I certainly don't have the skills of a sniper, never have claimed to. I know that snipers definitely have much more skill to be able to put shots on target for that first round. It took me 7 shots, which maybe that 7th shot might have actually been a pretty lucky shot. But once I was able to get zeroed in, I did get some pretty decent groups. Even though I was doing a minute of angle at 100 yards, it didn't exactly translate into 10-inch groups at 1,000. More environmental factors come into play there. But I was still really pleased with the groups, very happy with the accuracy of this gun. As far as an auto loader goes, if you're looking to be in competition, I know you're probably going to be looking at a bolt action rifle, because they can get quarter minute of angle groups with those guns. But in an auto loader, I know some auto loaders claim better than a minute of angle. They'll guarantee you like half minute of angle groups. Those are usually uber expensive rifles. As far as accuracy goes, unless you're really good, I think a minute of angle is going to do you just fine up to 1,000 yards. And if you've ever shot at that distance before, you know just how far it is. It's incredibly far. So I'm very happy with the accuracy. Couldn't be happier using this in a hunting role, which is what I wanted. I wanted an auto loader, mostly because when I was looking at getting a gun, it was before the Clinton-Trump election, and I thought it was going to be gun apocalypse. And I wasn't going to be burying guns or anything, but typically they don't get enough support to outright ban things and to confiscate them. And so they'll say, okay, well, you can no longer buy this, and you can be grandfathered in if you already have it, but you can no longer buy a new one. So I wanted to have something like this in the 308 platform, and I'm glad I made the purchase. I already talked about the recoil. Talked about comparing it to the FN. The only other things I have to say about this, I think, are maybe discussing a few different scenarios of why you would choose to purchase this firearm. So maybe you want to purchase it for plinking, for just having fun. Plinking with the 308? No, I think you could plink around with this thing just fine and have a lot of fun, because the recoil is very manageable. You put it in a 12.5-pound gun. I keep saying 12.5-pound. That's because of the configuration I have. So 10-pound, 2-ounce gun without it being loaded and no other accessories on it. You put it in a heavy gun with that excellent compensator, and it works great. It's very pleasant to shoot. Like I said, I have sissy shoulders, but I can shoot this thing all day and not have a problem with it. It would be a fun plinker. It is a fun plinker. I don't really consider it plinking when it's like shooting really expensive ammo. I think of plinking as just kind of shooting around and almost wasting ammo. Just shooting 22 and not caring so much about each shot. So yeah, I wouldn't shoot this willy-nilly because it's really expensive ammo, but certainly it's a fun gun to shoot is all I really meant to say. So what if I wanted to get it for long range? Absolutely. The trigger combined with, I don't think you need that 20-inch barrel. I think you could still get 1,000 yards out of the 18-inch barrel. Would it make that much difference in weight? I don't think so. I don't think you'd notice it. Would it make that much difference in balance? No, I don't think so. Even with that bipod on there, it's got really nice balance. Again, I'm going to pick on that FN, and I feel bad. If you're an FN lover, I feel bad that I'm picking on them. It's just the only other gun I have to compare it to, and it was used, and I'm sure they're a lot better than I'm giving them credit for. But the balance on the FN was like way front heavy. You pick it up and it just immediately drops. But this, because I think it is in the AR-10 style, the ergonomics are much more balanced, I find, in my opinion. Yeah, long range, it'll deliver. Minute of angle accuracy or better. I was before I bought this, I was really hoping that the guarantees would be true, and because you're kind of stuck if they're not. You know, you can send it into the factory or whatever, and they'll do some stuff to it, but for the most part, you just want it to work out of the box, right? And it delivered, absolutely. What about hunting? Mentioned how I took this hunting. If you're asking or thinking about getting this for a hunting role, what are you really asking? You're asking, what is it like hauling this thing all over creation? You know, 12.5-pound gun. Is it killing your arms? Is it breaking your back? So when I took this hunting, and I kind of went up in this area in a way to test just that question. But I went up to Utah's High Uintas Wilderness, which was in my hunting unit, and I hiked up to a place called Whiskey Island Lake, which has got to be just about the worst place for deer. I didn't see a single track in the snow up there. Didn't really know what I was doing. Still had a lot of fun, but I'm kind of getting off the subject here because I hiked 3.5 miles to the lake, 3.5 back. It was about an 800-foot elevation gain up to above 10,000 feet. And I was going slow because I was hunting, so I was just trotting along, going really slow. But it wasn't bad at all. I think I needed to stop and readjust the strap that I had on this about every 20 minutes or so. I had to readjust, switch shoulders or switch positions, do something with it, because it did start getting heavy after about 20 minutes. I had to switch it up a little bit. But just walking along, even holding up the front end, my arms were getting super tired. Totally doable for hunting. Thumbs up there. I know probably a lot of people who are used to the bolt actions that are, 4 pounds or under are laughing at that, dragging around 12.5 pounds. Remember, I bought this before the election, and I'm really happy because, maybe one day I'll probably switch to a bolt action rifle. I don't know. But for now, this definitely fulfills the role. I don't feel like it's not enough caliber to handle the things that I'm choosing to go hunting. I've only really been once, but the plans that I have to go hunting. But yeah, I think hauling this around, totally fine for hunting. How would it be for home defense? I don't know why you'd be shooting a 308 for home defense. Seems like way more than enough stopping power than you'd need. The muzzle blast is going to be blinding you. Your ears are going to be bleeding after the first shot. I mean, they're probably going to be bleeding indoors from a pistol shot, but I mean, this will absolutely destroy your eardrums. So I don't know why you'd want it for a home defense scenario, but you could. Certainly, again, it's long, so maybe getting around corners would be harder, but maybe there's some scenario where you could see this 308 fulfilling a role for as far as home defense goes. What about the Killer Tomato Apocalypse? Killer Tomato Apocalypse, the 308 for those thicker skinned killer tomatoes is going to be great. A lot more stopping power, a lot more barrier penetration in case they're hiding behind walls, and certainly can reach out further if you're sniping killer tomato generals, whatever those would be. But in an apocalypse scenario, you probably don't want to be hauling around 12.5 pounds of gun. Kind of goes back to the hunting. I was just walking along, strolling along, wasn't really trying to walk 8 or 9 miles a day, which maybe if you're hunting and walking 8 or 9 miles a day, maybe you might want to reconsider something a little bit lighter. But as far as the apocalypse goes, yeah, a lot of gun, a lot of weight. And so maybe if you had vehicle support, maybe that would be a better scenario to be in. Otherwise, you're going to get pretty sore hauling this thing around. But hey, our military hauls around those light machine guns, and they still do just fine. They're able to toughen it up. So it depends on what kind of person you are. But that pretty much sums up my review. Guys, this is my first gun review. If you have some tips or advice for me, I certainly welcome that. I just wanted to do this review to give you guys more information, my thoughts on how things have gone with owning this gun, and how much I like it, things that I really like about it. What could I say about it that I don't like? I guess the weight, but even the weight, it's well balanced. What else? What don't I like about this weapon? It's just awesome. Oh, the flip up front sight. I would get rid of that. Whoop, knocked the camera there. I would get rid of that front flip up sight. It's nice to have backup irons. I thought in case I was way out in the woods hunting and I did something to my scope and needed backup irons, but I was going to go with a offset irons, and you can't really do that with this because it's already part of the gas block, so I can't mess around with that at all unless I just buy a completely different gas block. So I'm just leaving it on there. No iron sight for the back. It is what it is, but overall, if you're thinking about getting this gun, take time, save up your pennies. It is so worth it. They do an excellent job all around. The build quality is excellent. It won't disappoint you as far as accuracy goes. I was worried about that after my FN experience, but it just delivers on so many different levels, and I look forward to having a lot more years with this gun. And yeah, nothing more to say. Until next time, guys, this is Derek reminding you, you're working too hard. See you next time.